Welcome everybody to the Lazy Money Machine course. Let's see if we can get both of us in the screen so you can see us. And it's Graham and myself. It's Graham sitting there, and this is me.
Phuket.
Yeah, in Phuket. This is the both of us.
Yeah, we're in Southeast Asia today.
Yeah, we're both in Southeast Asia.
That's right.
Episode number 2 of the course that we're putting together based on the book Lazy Money Machine that Graham and I wrote. And today's episode is about working hard won't set you free, as you can see in the title of the course today. And like I said, Graham is in Thailand, I think. Beautiful villa in the background.
Yeah,
And
very nice. 30 degrees centigrade as well, just for any of you who happen to be in Europe at the moment or America.
Yeah,
Rub it in.
mine is slightly cooler because I've got the aircon on, but
Right.
that's true. And it shows that we keep working and producing our content wherever we are in the world.
Yeah, because we enjoy it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's have a look. Today we speak about the first part of our Lazy Money Machine course, which is how to get the life you want with a minimum effort. And the module for today is working hard won't set you free. And it looks like a contradictory statement, but we will explain later on why this is true for us and true for many people. If I can kick it off, let's start off with the first slide, and we will talk about that. And this is the picture that I wanted to show you. So what you see here is actually the main concept of why working harder is actually not working. What usually happens, Graham, is that, as we also talk about in the book, if you're in a career and you make more money, you get a higher salary, you grow up the corporate ladder, yes, the dollars you get into your bank account go up, but if you look on the right side as well, the things that happen in your life and the things that you would like to do or like to have increase equally. So what you can see there is that, yes, your income goes up, but also very likely your spending goes up. You want to have a bigger car, better house, you go out to lunch with your colleagues more, and your spending pattern tends to increase at the same rate or maybe even harder than your income. Now that's something that we probably both have experienced when we were in corporate jobs. I certainly have. Especially the eating out part for me was a big one. If you're in an office setting and lunch with your colleagues and sometimes dinners that are not always company dinners, that definitely start taking out a lot of the free cash that you get in as an employee. Now the good thing in Indonesia, you can get lunch for $2 or $3, so sometimes you can have cheap lunch. But I mean, if you're in a certain position, then golf comes in and you start playing golf with your colleagues. And I definitely experienced that income increase tends to result also in spending increase. Have you experienced the same, Graham?
Yeah, I think you don't realize it, do you? But earning money is expensive. It's a strange conundrum. It's a strange paradox. And like you mentioned, like lunch and eating out and all these things add up. And you don't really see, if you were to move from, let's say, a starter salary of, let's say you were somewhere in Europe and you're earning $50,000 a year, and you moved up to a managerial salary of maybe 80,000 before you get, into the six figures. You don't really experience a lot of lifestyle improvement, do you? A lot of it just disappears, and you think, wow, where did my money go? Mm-hmm. I got a $30,000 pay rise, but where did it go? It all just disappears, and it's so easy to see all that money disappear without seeing, you expect to have more money at the end of the month. You expect to feel less stress about, making your bills and paying for the vacation and stuff like that. But in reality, so much of it disappears, and you end up at the end of the month thinking, where did it go? And all you have is golf or maybe a better car. But really, in terms of happiness, in terms of freedom, the impact is marginal, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think there's also like a vicious circle, especially if you're in a big city where most of time of working people is spent by working or networking, and then the people around you tend to follow a certain pattern as well, right? They tend to get better suits, they tend to get a nicer car, and they go, they show you, hey, I've just bought this or just bought that, or a better house is a big one, obviously. And even though, like now interest rates are very low, and I just read yesterday that the Dutch government is now reducing the amount of money you can borrow from 105% to 100% or something like that. So you can, in Holland, you can buy a house with 100% mortgage. So some of these luxury items that tend to come with a lifestyle might seem cheap, but it's like a race to the top for many people. And it's something to impress others for the most part, unless you're really happy with the luxury and the things that you're buying yourself. There's this picture that I have, which I will show now. Which is a picture of, I think it's one of the rap stars. I didn't check who it is.
Not Mayweather, Money Mayweather, no? I thought it was.
It's not Floyd Mayweather. It's a young guy, and he's like in the music business. And he has this picture which I now have on the screen with, his Lamborghinis and his fancy cars.
But none of them he owns, right? This is just all for show. None of this he owns.
You never know, and that does happen a lot, right? That the people that feel like they need to show off, they just find ways to create Instagram pictures to show off, right?
Well, did we talk about that before? You could actually, those Instagram pictures of people in private jets. You can actually rent a private jet.
Yeah.
On the ground. You don't actually fly the thing. You just go there and have your photos taken in a private jet. So I think that, the point, was $150, $200 an hour or something?
It was very cheap. It was very cheap. Yeah, it's like a couple of $100, and then you can get those photos taken. Yeah, so that tends to happen, right? That especially celebrities, but nowadays with Instagram, it's even more so. And this risk of keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with the neighbors. I mean, this was already an issue when we were young, and we're not the millennial age, but nowadays, since the display economy or the display tendency on social media is even more so, people tend to really spend even more energy on showing off their lifestyle, especially, and with that sometimes comes money, right? And I think in this particular episode of the course, I mean, the key question that I want to pose is, who are you trying to impress? And we have this picture here on the screen now of a guy that is really asking himself that, right? Who are you actually trying to impress? And
there's a great saying, which, it's, I might get this wrong, but it's something like, don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm.
Okay.
And I think that's the whole lifestyle of trying to impress. You're setting yourself on fire. You're going through this pain.
Right.
Buying a car is a great example of it, isn't it? If you bought a car for, let's say you bought a nice German car, like a BMW, brand new, would cost you what? $40,000? $50,000?
Yeah,
maybe?
For sure, yeah.
So I haven't bought a car for years, so I wouldn't know now. So 50,000, let's say it costs you 50,000, that's after tax income, isn't it? Yes. So that would have cost you at least 80,000 in salary, if not more, maybe 100,000, depending on where you live.
Yeah.
So you would have worked $100,000 worth of salary to pay for a car. And here's the interesting thing, Erik, I don't know if this ever clicked with you when you were in that corporate life, is that why did you buy that car? You bought that car so you could drive to the office to earn money, to pay for the car. I thought, when I realized that, I thought, wow, that's really screwed up. What am I doing? Why, it's like slavery. I don't understand. People have got to break out of this.
I have this picture still when we were doing our mobile SMS business. We had 3 shareholders, and we were all into cars. And we had private parking spots next to each other. And I had this picture of our 3 cars parked there, and it was quite impressive at the time. And it had our plate numbers there, and we could park like close to the lobby. It was really cool. I had the cheapest of the 3, but I'm still stingy like a Dutchman. But it was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a Porsche Cayenne, a BMW X5, and I had the Audi A6, but I had an old one. But it was like three black shiny cars with their plate numbers registered on the near the lobby parking entrance. And
Right.
yeah, it's like, I mean, and in Indonesia, I mean, I've been hearing from other people too here that, in Asian culture, or in Indonesian culture in this case, it's important the car you drive, because people estimate or they gauge you on that, right? The same way with the watch you wear. And I think that is still true to a certain extent, but at some point I thought, well, am I going to get that much more business if I buy yet another expensive car? And in the end, I don't think that really works like that. But there is part of culture here for sure that that people are judging you based on the car you drive or the watch you wear. But those are the only two items I think that I can think of that are really important here.
I think what is interesting about that is that it looks good and it feels good, but ultimately, you as the owner, we as the owner of those things, have to pay a big price for them. Not just the financial price, but also something we talk about in this course, which we'll go into, it is also the emotional price of owning these things, because you're attached to something, right? And you can't drive a nice car I had a nice car, Erik, once. I went through that phase. I had a few nice cars. At one stage, I had an S-Class Mercedes, 5-liter, with a V8 engine, everything. And it was big, fat, silver Mercedes.
Yep.
And this is the crazy thinking that I got into with this, is that, I worked really hard for that.
Yep.
And saved up the money. I bought the car, felt fantastic. I drove the car to work every day. But I was so paranoid about people bashing and scratching the car, because when I drove to work, there was always like a bit where all the traffic converged and all the cars would sort of bump into each other and scratch, and there'd be the motorbike guys coming through, and I'd be like, oh, don't touch my car. Right. I got so paranoid about it that, I did get scratched and I did get bumped, that what I did was I went and bought from my brother. My brother had this really old Golf, Volkswagen Golf, which was like really rusty, green as well. Like, people don't drive green cars. So I bought this thing. So I had, on the one hand, this very expensive Mercedes. And then I went to my brother and bought this rusty old Volkswagen Golf. It done like 200,000 kilometers. Yes. And the whole thing shakes, it's manual. I bought it for like $1,000 from him. And, what I did is I kept the Mercedes, and every day I drove Volkswagen Golf. And one day somebody hit the back of me in that Golf, and we pulled over because, as you do, and I looked at it and he'd like damaged the fender, the bumper at the back. And I thought, nah, don't worry about it. And he looked at me like, what? What do you mean don't worry about it? I said, yeah, don't worry about it. Let's just go to work. For him, he must have been, wow, this is like my lucky day.
Yeah.
But at that point, I realized the whole thing about that attachment to objects. And, I've been working hard to buy this thing, and it created this unseen attachment and pressure, which gives you a lot of pain and unhappy, cheap, and not to be attached to it and somebody to bash it. You're so much happier and more flexible in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a turning point for me.
Yeah, I think we'll come back to that in later modules on the attachment to things and how you can look at these things and try to reduce that attachment. I wanted to bring up one thing that you taught me, which is that many people think, okay, it's all good, Erik and Graham, you guys are investing your money. How do I free up money to do investment, right? So how can I do something beyond my active income? And you have this great example that I want to put on the screen, and maybe you can talk us through that on how actually small spendings actually make a big difference.
Right.
So let me put the picture up, and then you can take us through it. There we go. Nice Starbucks with a lot of sugar and whipped cream on top. What is this, Graham?
All right. So, this is a lot of calories. You're right. And I think that the point here is about small things add up big time. And a latte cost. What does a latte cost in Indonesia in dollar terms? Probably the same.
Same thing, yeah. About $5.
Yeah, everywhere in the world it's the same, isn't it? In Starbucks.
Yes. $5.
So you can easily spend $5 a day as a result of your lifestyle, which is, commuting to work and on the way, and you grab your coffee, and that just becomes a habit, and you don't think anything of it because it's $5 and you're earning 50, 80, 100,000 a year. It doesn't matter. But $5 a year, so $5 a day adds up very quickly. If you do the math, if you bought a latte every day over 10 years, if you invested that money somewhere else, so at 8% compound growth,
Right.
it adds up to a lot of money. What, 30? I think the actual figures is just under 30,000, but once you add tax on that, because it's after tax income, so we're talking 35,000.
Right.
More or less, right? That's just a latte. So, I think you mentioned this before to me, Erik, and it made me think is that, when you start earning money, you become self-entitled, right? You think you're entitled to things, right? What did you mean by that?
Well, I think what happens is that I mean, especially initial success, right? So if you start working and you start making some more money than your student budget, then you start to feel like, oh, wait a minute. I mean, I see all these other people in the world who then have the nice holidays and start buying nice cars, etc. And I think that certainly happened to me when I was young, whereby I thought, okay, now I'm going to buy a car, now I want to buy a house, right? So the common norm in society sort of drives you to spending without really thinking about it. Everybody is in this rut of earning money and then spending it. Your friends are going on holidays to the US. They're going on holidays to Asia. They're living in the suburbs or living in a terraced house in the middle of the city. So you go, well, I've studied hard for this. I've got a good job. I'm blessed to work in a big company. I was working in KPN in the Netherlands, big corporate company. They were paying well. I'm sort of I'm selected to be successful, and therefore I'm entitled to live that lifestyle that everybody is living. And I think that results in unthoughtful lifestyle changes. I think that's what it's driving it, right? Not so much the spending itself, but okay, now I want to have the lifestyle that comes with successful young people that come straight out of university.
Right.
Then I went to Indonesia and it got worse because, I made a lot more money when I was working here as an expat. The only problem I had here, I could hardly spend it because I didn't have anything to spend it on. I was working so hard, I had very little holidays. And the holidays that I did have ended up being commutes back to the Netherlands to see family and friends, etc. So my holidays were cheap. My physical possessions were limited because I was living in an apartment that I rented. So actually, it was quite lucky that I could stack up some money when I was doing this to start my business in 2005. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing went downhill because then I realized I need all my money that I make or have made to start building and start investing in these companies that I wanted to start. So that's sort of, I think, what happened to me. You end up being surrounded by a society where the common norm is that if you're successful, you tend to show it. And you tend to fall into that wave, I think, of people, doing that around you, so you follow.
Right. And it's nothing that's, if you look around your lifestyle, you probably wouldn't see much difference between what you have at one point and then go back a year. There's not a lot of change. Like we talked about the latte example, $5 a day.
Yeah.
That entitlement could be going to the supermarket and, okay, instead of buying normal milk, I buy organic milk, right?
Yeah.
Those changes, you'd probably think, wow, that's nothing, but that's maybe $1 a day. And then we talked about $5 could be worth 35,000 in 10 years.
Yes.
You can see how, if you went to the supermarket and you shopped and spent $20, $30 more than you would before the pay rise, how that could really add up, right?
Absolutely.
And, that adds up to $35,000 adds up to a potential investment in a property, right?
Yeah. So here we have the sort of the overview of what we spoke about, which basically is, as your salary grows, your outgoings grow, right? And then as we showed you the example of the latte, your income upgrades are absorbed by small everyday spends or bigger ones, if you talk about lifestyle. And the bad news is that if you stay in that flow, things won't get better. So basically, are we doomed, Graham?
Yeah, let's just explain that things won't get better, because that's really important, isn't it? I think we feel that we're going to earn more money, and therefore at some point all these problems are going to be solved.
Yes.
You know, I learned this as a financial advisor, where I sat in front of people when I worked in London, and they came to my office and I advised them, even though I was pretty young and didn't really know much myself at the time. What I got to see was their lifestyles and the long-term effect of their strategies on their finances. You know, from everybody who are graduates to guys and girls who are 60, 70, etc. So I saw that, and you know, they would sit down and they would explain all their finances to me, and I saw the difference. And I saw, as the example in the book, you know, a taxi driver and a doctor, and the taxi driver earned passive income from properties, and the doctor was like 200,000 in debt. Right? It just didn't make sense. You know, I thought, how is that possible? You know, there was no correlation between how hard they worked and their education and their salary and the outcome, which is their finances, right? So that was one thing I learned, and I thought, wow, everything I knew, everything I was taught at school was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm not going to get a better outcome. I'm not going to get a better future by working harder, by earning more money, having a better education.
Yeah.
So I learned that. So, you know, are we doomed? Well, maybe we're doomed if we follow the system, because, you know, we'll end up like that doctor, because I'm sure that doctor went to medical school thinking, well, I'm going to earn a lot of money, and, you know, I'm going to get on my bike and motorbike across China when I'm like 35. You know, that's kind of the attitude people have. But the reality was he was like massively in debt. I don't know if that guy was happy, right?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yes, if we follow the rules. So I guess people want to know, and people watching this and in the group want to know, how do you break the rules? What's the answer?
Yeah. Well, it's something, of course, that we in the book describe as passive income, money that comes into your bank account without you having to spend your time, and possibly sit on one of these nice lounges on the beach under a umbrella and sipping a nice margarita.
Or here in Phuket.
Or here in Phuket.
In the morning.
In the morning, a little bit cloudy, but still 30 degrees.
Or in Jakarta.
Obviously. Or Jakarta. Passive income obviously is the solution. And what we're going to talk about in the next module is actually the millionaire lifestyle. So basically how to live the millionaire lifestyle without actually being it. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail on how actually, you know, what is perceived as being an expensive lifestyle can actually be lived with a lot less. So I think we leave it at this module with, the solution to all this is passive income. We'll explain a lot more about that in future episodes. And Can
I just add?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Thanks for introducing this. I wanted to just end before I let you do the sign off. But I think, you know, we've introduced an idea to people, and I think people taking this course, people in the group, the Lazy Money Machine group, maybe know this already, but that's not the point of why we did this. The point of why we did this is to give people the confidence that this is the right thing, that the traditional way of earning money and working hard to set you free is broken. And I think what we try to do here, Erik, and a lot of what we do in the course is give people who know that the confidence that when they sit around the table at dinner and somebody's saying, oh, you can't do this and you can't do this, or I'm earning more money and I'm getting a promotion and I got headhunted, to know that that is broken and give you the confidence, because this can be a very challenging journey, can't it? When you're on your own, when you break out from the group, you feel like you're banging your head against the wall. Sometimes you feel like you're crazy. Sometimes you feel like, am I wrong? Because I'm doing something different. This is what it's about. Give people the confidence. You're not wrong. Those feelings, those suspicions that you had that things weren't right in the traditional way of doing things are to be followed, to be, you know, listened to. You've got to listen to those intuitions that you had, because this is the right way of doing things, is to break out from the crowd, do things your own way. And what we're trying to do is just give you the information, the ammunition, if you like, that when you have those conversations, when people tell you or doubt you, you know that you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. We're going to continue in the next episode about the millionaire lifestyle. See you there, guys.